previews all weekend long since Wizards of the Coast and friends have been starting their preview season for this. You can get your pre-orders in today at go.starcitygames.com/MH1. Those pre-orders will ship on Friday, June 14th. And this time we're going to talk about the card that Tom Ross previewed on the select side of Star City Games. If you haven't seen Wrenn and Six there, you're about to right now because Tom was working for Wizards of the Coast when this card was designed, and he's a pretty big fan of it. Red and a green, 2-mana Planeswalker. That's a big deal. 3 loyalty. Let's go with the +1. Return up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your library. We'll go to the -1. Wrenn and Six deals 1 damage to any target. That could be a player, Planeswalker, a creature. And then the -7, you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have a retrace. Where to begin?
I mean, it's a ton of rate. I mean, it's you get a little bit of the Loam experience. If you have this plus a fetch land, you don't miss a land drop for the rest of the game.
Yep.
If you have this plus Ghost Quarter or Field of Ruin or whatever, you are going to lock out a percentage of your opponents pretty fast. I mean, in some cases, just on the spot. Yep. They're not going to be able to compete with this. Unlike Loam, this gives you the option of interacting with the battlefield a little bit. Plenty of one-toughness creatures circulate around Modern and Legacy formats, so it does play to the board a little bit. And the emblem is, the emblem's a little tricky because it's not that good in the context of the average Loam deck, because the average Loam deck doesn't play all that many spells. But if you just play with like some lightning bolts or whatever, this ultimate's going to win the game if you've been just recurring all of your lands for the whole game.
This is intriguing me because obviously I think you're going to contextually put this into Loam-based strategies, and that's exactly where your brain goes first with this. But I think this can be good in other places too. Like, is this good in some sort of like Jund-style deck in Modern?
For
Maybe?
sure. Right. Well, if you want to do I think we sometimes see Loam in the sideboard of regular decks, either because the recurring of Wasteland or Field of Ruin, depending on the format, or Ghost Quarter, is so powerful that you just want to get that set up, or you want to insulate yourself from the opponent doing the same thing. And in that framework, I think Wrenn and Six is just so much better. Like, it totally crowds out that style.
Yep.
But I agree with you. Loam is kind of the level 1 thing to do with it, but I think there's enough going on here that other strategies can emerge as well.
Is this what something a 2-mana Planeswalker? I think there's Tibalt in this, and I think that's it. Is this what a 2-mana Planeswalker needs to look like? Obviously, it's good. I don't know if it's great. And this thing has the potential to be very good in particular formats, but it's never going to be standard legal. It's only Modern and beyond legal. I mean, what do 2-mana Planeswalkers have to look like?
Well, I think with the cheap Planeswalkers, the ones who have showed up and been successful historically are the ones where you get your money. It resolves, you get a card, and now from there, whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
And we see it now with Teferi Time Raveler, Narset, Liliana the Veil, and historical, if you want to go back a little bit further, the floor is pretty high. I Liliana and I kill one thing, and you kill my Liliana, but at least I have something to show for it. I play Teferi, I bounce your thing, I draw my card. Whatever happens from here, at least I'm neutral on cards. Narset, same deal. I draw my card, and now you have to take some game actions to resolve this card, or I'm going to get to draw another card next turn, to say nothing of the passive. That's the recipe. Assuming your deck is built the same way, you are going to play this, you're going to get your Wooded Foothills back, and now whatever happens from here happens. At least I have the card back to show for it, and I think that is the through line for all of these Planeswalkers. Even when you get to be more expensive, like Jace the Mind Sculptor has this, Gideon Allies and a card, you get your token. The floor is never, I just don't get a card. Now, there's going to be spots where getting one land back isn't that valuable, because there's only so valuable getting a land back can be sometimes. But in terms of the raw card economy, the Planeswalkers that are cheap that fail to show up are often, I'm just down a card.
Sure.
That whatever the activated power was on this thing didn't line up on the battlefield the right way, and then it got attacked, and I have nothing to show for it. Yep. And Wrenn and Six, assuming your deck is built reasonably around it, that will never happen. You'll always get your fetch land back.
Okay. Well,
or kill something.
Yeah, kill something is big.
Yeah. If you kill something, then you're way ahead.
Yeah.
And if you at least get your fetch land back or your Ghost Quarter back, you're not in the hole on the transaction.
Yeah, and this does have the ability with the -1 to pick off a card like Narset or Teferi, and some other things I'm sure we're not thinking of. You know, your Land of War Elves and your Birds of Paradise and your Dark Confidants of the world. So.
Noble Hierarch, Champion of the Parish if you're on the play.
Yeah.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Yep. People bring in Liliana the Last Hope against humans, even though humans doesn't have that much removal, because just having a pinger is so good against them. And Wrenn and Six is cheaper.
Yeah. So this card could see some play. Tom Roth, I know, was very excited about it. You can pre-order it today. And who would I be if I didn't talk about a goblin? Who would I be? Go ahead and talk about Munitions Expert. Got to stay on brand. Black, red, 1/1 flash means you can play at instant speed. When Munitions Expert enters the battlefield, you may have it deal damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of goblins you control. Somewhat reminiscent of Gem Palm Incinerator, a card I don't think they're going to be reprinting anytime soon, but this does a pretty decent fill-in, I think.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And Goblin Matron got spoiled as a preview as well. So we talked about that on the Factor Fiction earlier this week. That's two really good tribal enablers.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Goblin, part of the way that Humans gets over is that it's a really diverse range of outputs. You have anti-spell measures in Freebooter and Thalia. If you want to blow up artifacts, it's not that hard. Meddling Mage kind of covers you against a lot of different sort of things. The Goblins are a lot more homogenous, and that might end up being the thing that dooms them is you just don't have enough play against enough different things. But this card, along with Goblin Matron, is a real base. Those cards, this card and Matron are extremely powerful cards.
And we can't forget that Vial is probably going to work itself into the equation. Now, you're missing some of the great legacy staples, the land destruction like Wasteland, Rashad, and Port. Goblin Lackey, I don't think they're going to reprint. I'd be very surprised if they did, I guess I would say, but fingers crossed. But I think this is a step in the right direction for players that want to play Goblins. You've got, your red and your black Goblins, some of them from Lorwyn blocks, so cards like Auntie's Hovel work themselves into the equation, and maybe Wart, Bogart, Auntie, and so maybe Earwig Squad, depending on the metagame. And I think this is going to be pretty good, and dealing 1 damage to something, as we've seen with Gutshot, and I think in the future Lava Dart, counts for something.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of have this base, and then any normal Goblins deck, this is going to be very close to Terminate. So we're looking out for whether or not, again, there's that base of good, flexible Goblins to fill out a deck. That remains to be seen, but if the deck doesn't show up, it's not because this card and Goblin Matron aren't helping, because that's a lot of power.
Yeah, it just needs a good 1-drop.
Right.
The thing about Humans, right? They've got Noble Heart, they got Champion of the Parish, they got Aether Vial. Goblins right now has like Vial and maybe Skirk Prospector?
I alluded to it a little bit. The problem is I think the best Goblin payouts right now are Goblin Grenade, Goblin Guide, and Goblin Bushwhacker. Okay. And that pushes you down into this really all-in, low-curve, like Mem Knight contested Warzone style deck.
Really weird deck.
Really weird style deck. Munitions Expert and Goblin Matron suggest sort of that old school, bigger, deeper game with more utility, more card advantage. So that to me is an issue you got to figure out, because the best Goblins and Goblin payouts right now lean you to sort of an all-in beatdown deck, and Expert and Matron aren't really about that sort of thing.
Sure. We'll have to figure it out.
Has me hyped right now. I'm a control mage at heart, Jerry. I've been playing a lot of Amulet Titan in Modern lately, but I want to get to this card. I want to get to Archmage's Charm. 3 blue mana, choose one, counter target spell, target player draws 2 cards, or gain control of target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. Jerry, what do you think about this one?
This is nice.
Yeah, it's dope.
UUU, obviously a prohibitive mana cost. You might look at Modern and see like all the fetch dual mana bases and stuff, but realistically, you want to play a basic Plains, you want to play some Field of Ruins so you have access for land destruction against Tron. So this does come at a cost, but it is very powerful. Basically, no matter what you want to be doing as a control mage, if you're getting beaten down by a Death Shadow or a Goblin Guide or whatever, it does that. If you just want to draw some more cards, it does that. You need a counter spell, boom, it's there. So it kind of does it all, right?
Versatility for these control decks is huge in a field like Modern. You have to be able to answer everything. And I think the mode that's being slept on more than anything is the gain control of target non-land permanent, converted mana cost 1 or less. You mentioned Death Shadow. That's the home run steal, right? Can you think of something better to steal than Death Shadow? I
mean, taking the Aether Vial is pretty sweet too. It's it's basically destroy Aether Vial because you probably won't have a lot of creatures in your deck.
Right.
Are you sandbagging one? Do you have a better one?
No, I think Death Shadow is pretty much top of the line, but there's a lot of like weird applications like that, because you're not interested in an Aether Vial, but just denying it from your opponent from a 3-mana blue sorcery is a pretty big deal, and you get to play that in your main deck too. It's not like Artifact Hate that's sitting in your sideboard.
Right, exactly. So again, versatility is huge.
Yeah, and I really like this card. I really like what it can do for control decks. Control decks, of course, getting several tools. We'll talk more about that as the day goes on, I'm sure.
Shout out to, again, Elena Danner for the awesome art.
Yeah, beautiful art on the Archmage's Charm. There's other cards we want to talk about, though. It's not just Archmage's Charm. I'll let you do the introduction, because you're excited about this card, Jerry. For some reason, you've got this thing lately with ninjas.
Yuriko is sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Same.
You know?
I'm with you. I love ninjas as a kid.
So ninjas are cool. This is Fallen Shinobi, 3 UB, creature zombie ninja, 5/4. Looks like OG Deadpool.
Okay, I can see that.
Ninjutsu, 2 UB. Whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library until end of turn. You may play those cards without paying their mana cost. Can you imagine ninjutsuing like a spell stutter sprite into this thing against like Dom Harvey's deck?
That'd be nice.
You're spinning the wheels, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get, but it's like you hit a lot of powerful cards in Modern potentially. And this could just end the game on the spot, which is pretty impressive for 4 mana.
Yeah, the ninjutsu payoffs are always huge. And we've seen them used to some success before. Let's not forget you get the rebuy on your creature. You mentioned Spellstutter Sprite. I would love to see a world where Spellstutter Sprite becomes a modern playable card again.
Yeah, and 5 damage is like nothing to scoff at either.
Absolutely. This ends the game very, very quickly. And it should be noted, too, you get to play the card, so hitting land isn't bad. In a lot of cases, you're disappointed to hit land, but advancing your mana is still worthwhile.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Now, what about the fact that this is a very high casting cost card in a format? I mean, if you went and looked at the data from the last Modern Pro Tour, I think the top 10 most played cards, I think every single one cost 1 mana.
Yes, and obviously you would want to play 1 mana cards along with this. You need to play 1 mana cards in order to fix your draws and play things like Thoughtseize, ensure that you don't die. Fatal Push also helps with that. So your average CMC is going to be rather low, but a lot of the time these decks do have expensive cards. You see Cryptic Command, Teferi Hero of Dominaria, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and is this card better than them? Probably not, but there are people like Yuta Takahashi picking up fairies and doing well with it consistently at every Grand Prix. And granted, he's building it more like a control deck, less like an actual fish deck, where I think this card would, be a little bit better suited. But it's still a very powerful card, could fit in somewhere. But that's going to be the case with a lot of these cards. They don't necessarily fit into existing archetypes.
Right. They push you to make new archetypes, and that's what I am really enjoying about this set thus far. It keeps inspiring me to want to try new decks. Pick one more card to talk about, Jerry. What else do you want to rap about for a few minutes?
Old or new?
Let's go with an old one.
Genesis.
Okay. I have not seen Genesis in a very long time. When I made my return to competitive Magic via Magic Online, Genesis was all the rage.
Was this like old extended?
No, this was just old standard.
Oh, okay.
Where Genesis was a very impactful card. We'll get it up for you on the screen in just a moment. Let me try and do it from memory. 4 colorless, 1 green, 5/3 creature. When Genesis
4/4.
4/4. Why do I think 5/3? Maybe I'm thinking Phantom Centaur.
Yeah.
In that same format. All right, well, now I'll cheat and read it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Genesis is in your graveyard, you may pay 2 colorless, 1 green. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I'm going to be honest. This feels a little slow for present Modern.
Yeah, obviously.
Are you going to find a way to make it work?
Maybe. So back in the day, it was like, all right, I guess I'll cast this. It will die somehow. I'll trade it off. And then you have this engine. Later on in Extended, it was like, oh, I'll set up like these gifts ungiven piles with this card, start recurring my Eternal Witnesses. In both scenarios, I think you're right that it's too slow for Modern. But if you do find something particularly busted to do with this, like say you traverse for it, and then you Faithless Looting it away, and then you start recurring Death Shadows against Jund or something.
Okay.
Like, that alone, like Traverse Shadow at this point is kind of a fringe archetype, but people do still play it. I think Faithless Looting is like sometimes in there, sometimes not. I would probably lean more on in the camp of actually playing some Faithless Lootings. And especially with this as a traverse target, I think that means that this card will see play just in that archetype alone.
Certainly in fair matchups, it's a great sideboard option.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, people were sideboarding like Ranger of Eos. They're splashing it.
Right.
Because they want access to more Death Shadows in grindy matchups.
In those type of matchups, this is doing a lot more, for sure.
This card does it all.
Okay. Well, we will see.
Ship Friday, June 14th, but you can pre-order them today, like this thing. Yep. Let's talk about it. Game designer Patrick here to my left, your right. Force of Negation, Wizards of the Coast's newest attempt at free cards. I think they may have gotten these right. 1 blue. If it's not your turn, so it's not my turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. This is much different than Force of Will.
Yeah, Force of Will you can use to push through combos.
Yep.
And Force of Will doesn't really care about text boxes at all.
Yep.
So this is an effort to sort of do it the right way, which is what's the good thing about Force of Will? Defend yourself from all-in combo decks. This card does an excellent job of that. You cast any spell at all. You have the ability to counter it for 0 mana. Additionally, unlike Force of Will, this one's pretty reasonable to hard cast. It's also exile, so
Yep.
it cuts off some graveyard shenanigans. This is a really explicitly anti-combo measure.
Very much so. I agree.
Whether or not you can play it in your main deck, that's going to be metagame dependent, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this can do nothing but positive things, is the short of it.
Okay. So not like, I mean, Force of Will strikes me as, that's a legacy thing. You want to play with Force of Will, go play Legacy.
Well, it's also just, it is good at defending yourself.
Yes.
But it's also good at defending yourself against everything, including opposing interaction.
I agree.
Force of Will is good against Sneak and Show decks, but Force of Will is also quite good alongside.
Sneak and Show decks.
Right.
Yeah.
So this one doesn't quite have that same cost.
Which, unless someone were to find a way to combo on their opponent's turn, they could push through.
Right.
Right, a combo. So something maybe ad nauseum-esque, maybe. I think there are combo decks that can win your opponent's turn, but they look a lot different.
But those, if you're worried about that sort of thing, Pact of Negation, Disrupting Shoal to a lesser extent, there are already cards out there that you can use in Modern to push through combos that are, I would say, more effective than this.
I would agree.
This is much more about defense and should be able to do that quite well.
You can pre-order this card today. Go. .starcitygames.com. Here comes the graphic. Ready? Here it comes. Bang. .com/MH1. Ships Friday, June 14th. You can pre-order that card and all the others that have been previewed thus far. And now, it's time for your questions. 3-1 Padres. Now they just gave up a run. Sorry, man.
It's okay.
Still got the lead. Still got the lead.
No lead big enough for Cal Quantrill.
That's true. It doesn't
Unfortunately.
strike me as a very good pitcher. No. All right, here we go. Let's see what the people sent in today for our questions. Warner Ferguson, do you think there could be a fixed version of Birthing Pod in Modern Horizons?
So they made Birthing Pod the creature and Birthing Pod the spell in back-to-back sets.
Yeah.
That's already kind of weird. I think you could take a breather from that one for, let's say, at least one set.
I believe the fixed version is Prime Speaker Vanafer.
Right, yeah.
I think that's your fixed version.
It's a creature that your opponent, and there's all sorts of ways to cheat and play ahead of schedule or play at instant speed in Modern, but it opens up way more interaction points for the opposing player than Birthing Pod.
Someone asked me about Force of Rage. I didn't even know. It's a red one? Do we have that?
Oh, the red one.
I haven't seen the red one. Do we have that?
I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, the red one's so bad. You know what I mean? There's people that are really sensitive about their color or their strategy getting the worst one in a cycle.
Okay.
You've got to be...
I haven't read this yet.
Okay.
Hold on. One red. If it's not your turn, you may exile a red card from your hand rather than play this spell. Create 2/3/1 red elemental creature tokens with trample and haste. Sacrifice.
So you can either cast it. You can cast it for 3 mana to make 2 Spark Elementals. Alternatively, you can Force of Will block 2 creatures.
Surprise! Your creatures are still alive.
I remember seeing Cryptic Command and then seeing Incendiary Command and being like, you can't be, this is on purpose, right? There's no way, this has to be, how funny this is, right?
They might be in on the joke, yeah.
This is Incendiary Command to Cryptic Command.
All right, question. Just thought of this right now. Cards that have cycles, like the commands and everything, is the red one ever the best one? Has there been a cycle where the red card has been the best of the cycle? That's for you at home, too.
Almost certainly.
That's for you at home, too.
Got to think about that one for a minute. But
I have to assume the answer is yes.
Definitely. There's been so many cycles in Magic.
Right? Some of them have to be red. But
what's the X spell, and if it's 10,
Finale of Promise?
Instant copy of sorcery.
I don't know if that's the best one. We don't know. That's inconclusive.
I don't know. That one's pretty juiced.
That is not better than Ancestral Recall
or Dark Ritual.
Who's working back here?
Yeah.
Jeez. I think the green one's probably the best one. Finale Devastation. That thing goes tutors to the graveyard, all this other stuff with green and mana acceleration. I think Finale Devastation is probably going to end up being the best one.
Okay, I would bet on the red one, but okay. I think they're all pretty powerful. So
I think they're all good cards. I'm just
they're
saying,
all good.
I don't know what the best red cycle of something has ever been. I feel like someone's going to tweet at me and ask me.
Random Nap Ruins.
Yeah,
That one's pretty.
That card was banned.
That card's
so,
pretty
yeah.
plainly. That one's pretty plainly.
Yeah. That one. All right, that's one. That's one. That's at least one. That's right. All right, how bad is that Force of Rage? Well, I think we answered that question for you, Nick. It appears to be pretty bad. Pretty bad. Also, go Browns. I agree. Let's see. Fair mid-range decks will disappear in Modern ? So, like, that's like kind of a question, Leonardo. It's like kind of a question.
It looks like there's some effort to put more power points into some of the more expensive cards. My worry with Modern Horizons was, you know what's an easy way to make a card good in Modern? If your goal is, let's just make a bunch of stuff that's good in Modern, make a bunch of stuff that costs 0 and 1. I was worried that was going to be the recipe.
That doesn't look like it's happening.
It looks like there's a pretty good distribution of where the power points are. So, yeah, if anything, I think mid-range decks are more likely to be good post Modern Horizons than before.
All right, we got some answers for best red cycle. Let's see if you agree. The best one in the red cycle from Dominaria is Goblin Chain Whirler.
I don't know.
I think that's contextual.
There's a ton of rate on all those cards,
right?
And 4 of them have shown up in like very, very good decks.
Tempest super good.
I would not call this an obvious slam dunk for Chain
No,
Whirler.
like Tempest super good. Steel Leaf Champion, very
Had
good.
its moments. Spinellus Marshall, very good.
What's the other one? The black.
The Shade.
Tough for Dread Shade. Still, it could be good in the right format. So
Yeah.
that's not a slam dunk answer.
Not a slam dunk.
No. The Ascension cycle, Pyromancer.
Sure. Yep. What are the other options there?
There was like Bloodhall Ascension, which was the black one.
Yeah, they're called Pyromancers. Although that's sort of I mean, not to be that guy.
What was the
but
blue
it's sort of
Ascension? There had to be a good blue Ascension, right?
probably something that gave you another turn. I don't know.
Green Ascension. That was
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster Ascension. White Ascension.
I don't know. Yeah, Pyromancer Ascension is probably a safe bet. If we can't think of them.
Yeah. Blazing Shoal.
That's a tough one. I mean, that's like a combo enabler. That's kind of its own weird thing. Valakut. Valakut's the best of those 5, right?
Amiria. Claims that there's not a full cycle in the headset.
Is there no green one?
Hold on. Valakut, Amiria. What set is this? Zendikar?
Yeah, the Time Walk land. And there's a battlefield tap. You ship them a turn, and then it time walks.
Magosi?
Yeah, I think that was part of that. Oran Reef and. All right.
I don't know about that. I don't remember all those cards off the top of my head.
Yeah, we'll have to think on it.
I'm not willing to concede that one. Blazing Shoal. Okay, so there's Disrupting Shoal, Shining Shoal, Sickening Shoal, and what color am I
would not say that's a slam dunk for Blazing Shoal. It's obviously the best combo enabler of the bunch. If you put all 5 of those into your average standard format at the same time, it would probably show up the least of the 5. So.
What was the Green Shoal's Nourishing Shoal? That card ended up being
another
good.
combo enabler.
Yeah, all right.
The other 3, the black, blue, and white shoals are much better in just normal decks, like normal games of Magic.
We got Hazoret.
Yep.
I think that's a win.
Yep. Hazoret's
that's a win for the best gods.
Yep. Hazoret's a good choice.
Shrine of Burning Rage.
Very good choice.
I think that's probably
true. By a mile.
I think that's probably the best one by a lot.
Just not okay. Card's not okay at all.
Have you activated that a time or two?
That was that was in my invitational top 8. That was the standard format. The standard format was Cawblade, Splinter Twin, and Cawblade Splinter Twin hybrids.
Yeah,
and I top 8'd that invitational because this card is just so out of balance. Yeah. I beat like souped up modern decks with Furnace Scamp.
Bring that one up. Bring up the Scamp.
The format was so fast. Manic Vandal was legal, and I literally had Shatter in my sideboard.
I do remember that.
Not Shatter with any...
Oh, there he is.
This card is a lot.
Beast.
Not Shatter like shattering, smash smithereens.
Shattering blow.
Or some
other card, yeah.
No, just literal Shatter, because the format was so fast, you could not afford that Manic Vandal. I had beta ones in my sideboard. I don't know what that is. What's being shattered? A pirate ship?
Some sort of pirate ship. Looks like it's from Ixalan for sure.
Probably Ixalan.
Okay, so 2 more for the red ones, and we'll get to more questions here. Todd Anderson coming in from the trees. This is arguable. Barbarian Ring. We got Centaur Garden, Cephalid Coliseum,
right?
Nomad Stadium, and Cabal Pit. All 5 playable.
So I would say that if we're talking about relatively low power formats, I think Barbarian Ring is a good choice. If we're talking about how it scales up, it's Cephalid Coliseum. Not a clear win for Barbarian Ring, but I think it's 1 or 1A, depending on how you want to judge it.
All right, last one, because I think you'll know this answer better than me. Gotta be Shivan Gorge from the legendary Urza's Lands.
Okay, this is an insanely insulting cycle of cards.
Okay, so what were they? Okay, there's the Gorge.
Talarian Academy. Gaia's Cradle.
Okay.
Sarah's Sanctum.
Okay.
Phyrexian Tower.
And the Gorge.
Which one? They put this in one of the specialty from the vaults.
Okay.
From the vault, colon Shivan Gorge. Yeah. Yeah, that cycle is outrageous. It's four like 11 out of 10s, like not even close to okay on
mostly banned cards.
Yeah, mostly banned cards that are not okay in standard, and this, which is like, would you play this in your draft deck? Maybe, maybe not, depending on how many double mana cards you had of the other color.
All right, a couple more thoughts on the huge impact War of the Spark has had on basically every format. I think it's kind of cool.
So positives and negatives. I will give you the quick rundown of my takes on it so far. I like that there's a lot of power points in cards that are more expensive. Cards that are showing up in Legacy and Modern that cost 3 or 4 mana, that's really hard to do. And I think it's really succeeding well on that front. Okay. The cheap way to do it is a Fatal Push or a land that combos well with Watery Grave. It's easy to get over the line that way. The fact that a lot of them are showing up are 3 and 4 mana cards, I think that's awesome. Not an easy thing to do. My critique of it is it's all kind of the same card. They're all these personal Howling Mines with some form of disruption on the opposing player. You know, Karn is sort of disruptive in its own way, more of a combo piece. Teferi, Narset, they're not materially different cards from one another, in my opinion, such that it feels like it's closer to one card from War of the Spark is making an impact, not 6 or 7.
Sure.
Even though it actually is 6
or 7 cards.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my more good than bad. It's nice for it to be different, and the power points are put, I think, in the right place. But the sum of the cards, I think the discrete pieces are not that different from one another, as much as I would like.
I will say that for a set that has 36, technically 37 Planeswalkers, it's actually pretty fun Magic. I think the gameplay's actually been pretty good. I've enjoyed playing and watching Standard. I think there's a lot of fun decisions and all this other stuff. Yeah, the games are a little bit weird because like all these static abilities are out there that you got to remember, and they have an effect on the game. But by and large, like I played in an MCQ last weekend. I had a lot of fun.
Planeswalkers are really fun, and the combat step is really fun. And in the best case scenario, Planeswalkers promote the combat step because I'm interested in defending my Planeswalkers or trying to attack them down, and the game shapes around these different game objects being the thing we're battling around rather than you're just sort of amorphous life total going up or down.
No.
That's really sweet. The problem is that a lot of Planeswalkers promote playing no creatures at all and just burning your opponent on extra cards.
Yep.
And with War of the Spark in Standard, at least, you see both of those. You see games where it's awesome that all these Planeswalkers are going around. You never run out of options to do. You have all these different decision points, and combat is this really engaging decision every turn. It's not just hit you for 4, hit you for 4, hit you for 4. It's different every turn. You also see the downside of it, which is just Teferi, bounce your thing, I'm up some cards, I'm just sort of drawing extra removal spells, and eventually the leftovers kill you.
Sure.
It can cut both ways. The details matter.
All right. Most underrated and overrated card from Modern Horizons so far.
I don't know who rates these things. The framework of overrated and underrated is really weird because it just assumes I know how the aggregation of all rates that exist.
You do. You get to rate them.
Most underrated card.
I got an easy answer for this one, actually.
For most underrated? I think the Goblin Welder.
Is it Goblin Tinkerer, maybe? Is that what it's called?
That one, I think, that card's, I think, for real.
Do we have that?
I don't remember exactly the text box, but that one, I think, from what I recall.
I don't know. I'm looking for it here. Goblin Engineer?
It, like, entombs an artifact and it runs swapsies.
All right, so 1 red, 1, 2. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for an artifact card and put it in the bin. Okay.
Yeah.
Red tap, sack an artifact, return target artifact card with converted mana cost 3 or less.
Yeah.
Still probably good.
I mean, you get to... It is really hard for your opponent to not be under Ensnaring Bridge if you build your deck correctly.
If you have this thing going over, yeah. Okay, that's true.
And you've engineered explosives. There's like plenty of good just board control options that you can move in and out.
Sure.
Avoid all the shatters. Yeah.
My card's also red for underrated.
People are I haven't seen a whole lot of hype around this one, and I think this one's legit.
I'm gonna give you a little preview. Jerry Thompson's gonna write about this. Article is gonna go live on Premium either Monday or Tuesday. Lava Dart. I think that card's super underrated. You've definitely played with Lava Dart.
I want a PTQ with Lava Dart.
Yeah. So
I can recite the deck list right now.
That's what you just dial it back.
Okay.
Dial it back. I know you probably do you have 4?
4. Every card in the deck was 4.
This is Red Deck Wins, right?
Yeah.
Way back in the day. So this card, it looks innocuous, much like Gutshot looked innocuous way back in the day. There's going to be a lot of synergies with this card that I think people don't realize up front, especially the sacrifice a mountain flashback thing.
It is super, super good in prowess strategies.
Yes. Yes.
It's 2 spells for 1 mana.
Yeah.
That impact the board or deal damage to the player.
And the fact that it's put something in the graveyard for like threshold or something like that, like that's gonna be the real deal.
Arclight Phoenix, you get two spell triggers. If these decks are playing Gutshot, I think Lava Dart is a major upgrade. You can discard to Faithless Looting. You're not just down the resource. It's just another option afforded to you later on.
Overrated card? I think the Astral Slide. Astral Drift.
I don't know what it is.
It's Astral Slide that cycles. Literally the same card.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just so.
I think a little too slow.
You just can't. You can get away with it a little bit with Living End because when you catch back up, it's living death. Yep. All their stuff's dead, and you have 30 power on the battlefield. You can afford to take a couple turns off. You cannot afford to take a couple turns off to, like, on the 4th turn, exiling your attacker. Modern's too fast for that.
All right, last one. Last one. Then we got to go to a deck tech with Dom Harvey, which, ooh. Okay. Someone brought up another red cycle, Pulse of the Forge.
A fine choice. The other pulses, I mean, that was a really powerful cycle.
Pulse of the Fields was a messed up card, man.
Even the green pulse was good. It was
Pulse of the Tangle?
Yeah, that card was good too. I think this is a fine vote, but I wouldn't say slam dunk best of the cycle. A fine vote, though.
Some people are saying Fiery Confluence. I don't know about that. I've cast Mystic Confluence a lot in Cube. Yeah. Hard to lose when that one resolves.
Right, but there's a value over replacement thing going on there. In Legacy, there are so many busted things you can do in blue for 4 or 5 mana that what's one more thing, whereas this kind of exists in its own sphere for Red Prison style strategies. On pure rate, I agree. I think the blue one's better.
All right, last one. Okay. Then we're going to Dom Harvey's deck tech with Boreo's Vengeance. They brought back these Horizon, I'm calling them the Horizon lands for lack of a better term right now. That's what I'm going with. Horizon lands, of course, based off Horizon Canopy. We've got some enemy-colored Horizon lands in this set.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? That's a pretty bold thing to be doing because those cards are generally really good.
They are really good. But again, I think this is demonstrating a lot of wisdom in putting power points in the right place. You typically see Horizon Canopy in decks that want to play 3 or 4 turns.
That's true.
Because you're not sacking it on the first turn. You're not sacking it on the second turn, typically. So it implies, now, you occasionally run into decks like Infect or whatever where they're so fast and require so little mana that maybe they play a little bit of it. But for the most part, it's for strategies that, I play with a lot of cheap cards. I don't care that much about taking some damage, but sometimes the game goes on for a long time and I want to draw cards. Humans is probably the best example of this.
Absolutely.
Neither the reliquary strategies, to whatever extent they're popular.
Slippery B.
Slippery B.
Yep.
Occasionally you see it as a tutor target in Tron. You see it in Elves. These are decks that either play a lot of turns or generate so much mana that it's kind of free to be able to throw it away. So I think it's a boon for... I think the most obvious deck that comes to mind is Burn. The red-white land for them is a major upgrade.
Yep.
You want more red-white dual lands anyway. The mana base is not all that great. You do want to make your first couple of land drops. You kind of want to go 1, 2, 3, stop. And those lands are so good for doing that.
Yep.
You go 1, 2, 3, stop. You even get to if you're playing Inspiring Advantage, you actually get to sack it and then reset. Now your Inspiring Advantage comes to the battlefield untapped. Where does it fit for the other decks? I don't know, because so much of the mana bases are built around fetch lands and Ravnica duels, and how much breathing space does your black-green good stuff deck to have to play a couple black-green Horizon Canopies? Maybe a few, probably not 4, but 1 or 2.
Like 1 or 2,
yeah. 1 or 2 could easily buy it. I'm suspicious of them being very good for the blue decks because the blue decks are so mana hungry typically. You have, in Modern, you have no end of cards. You can draw cards easily. It's mana that's the choke point. So I think those cards are going to require different decks, but certainly the red-white one for Burn I think is a major upgrade, and the green ones seem very good for to whatever extent green mid-range decks exist, those cards are going to slot in very naturally.
All right, very quickly before we go over to Dom Harvey, Goblin Ringleader, best of that cycle red. I don't think I can argue that one.
Ringleader.
There was I think it's.
Oh yeah, there's like the one for soldiers, the one for yeah.
Ringleader easy winner.
Ringleader easy winner.
Okay.
Sure.
So no argument there. I think fourth. Let's talk about Plague Engineer. You seen this one?
I don't think so.
All right, 2 and a black, 2/2, Death Touch. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type your opponents control get -1/-1. This is kind of like Engineered Plague done right, assuming Engineered Plague was done wrong.
Well, Engineered Plague is one of Magic's 25 least wise designs of all time.
Okay.
It's really fun for people to build decks that are around certain creature types, and it kind of sucks to just make that a really bad strategy, as was the case.
It's not the best.
It is a different time. Back in the day, Magic was so fast and creatures were so bad that the only way that you could be competitive with a tribal deck is just flooding the board with a bunch of 1-mana cards. And Engineer Play was very good. That's less the case now. And they also just make more 2 toughness 1-drops. So it's not just game over. And this is a creature. Easier to remove in most circumstances.
Only a 2/2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So possibly a sideboard card if the metagame shapes a certain way with goblins and elves. It's unlikely. It's a cool throwback to an old design that, like I said, powerfully unwise to do, but times have changed and creatures are not as bad as they used to be.
You see the creature type on this card?
Carrier.
Can you name another creature that has a carrier in Magic? I'll give you $1 million if you can.
$1 million?
Million.
If I can name another carrier.
Right now. You got roughly 5 seconds.
Festering Goblin.
Let's check. Close. Zombie Goblin.
Zombie Goblin.
I think Plague Spitter might be a carrier.
That's a good, and I played that in States.
Can we check Plague Spitter before we go to break?
That's a really good bet. Really good bet. I played that in States in '99.
Horror. I don't know if there's any other carriers in Magic. Not sure, but
Card you're looking for.
Lava Dart.
Besides Lava Dart, Urza.
Oh, this
High Lord Artificer.
This card's too expensive.
You can't afford it?
No,
You're
I
priced
can't.
out of it?
No, it's 4 mana.
Oh, I see. I thought you were talking dollars and cents. You weren't willing to invest in Urza yet.
All right.
You just don't want to cast Urza, is what you're saying.
Urza, Lord High Artificer. No, this is a Zach Elsick card. This is not a Jerry Thompson card.
Okay.
It's possible if Zach completely breaks it, then I will adopt this card. But 2 UU, 1/4, legendary creature, human Artificer. When Urza, Lord High Artificer, enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless Karnstruct.
Cute.
Artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. You can tap an untapped artifact you control to add blue mana, and you can pay 5, shuffle your library, exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost.
Here's what I know about Urza, Lord High Artificer. I can say this with 100% certainty. There are a lot of words on that card.
A lot.
Like an incredible amount of words. It does a lot of things. Are any of those things broken? I have no idea. Obviously, there's combo potential. You start talking Thopter Sword setups. That looks really good. There's some talk about Urza just being like a good fair card in some situations. There's a little bit of flood insurance for something like Affinity. Just putting a body on the battlefield with that trigger. I don't know. That seems a little bit more of a stretch. 4 mana is a lot in Affinity.
I would rather have Experimental Frenzy in traditional Affinity.
Okay.
I'm sure there are other decks where you're able to utilize this card and build your deck a little bit differently, maybe to maximize it a little bit more. But yeah, for the most part, I think you're supposed to be trying to do broken stuff with this card.
That's my instinct as well. And I don't think, like, Thopter Sword is the clearly obvious, like, broken thing you can do. But I bet there's so many more. And this card's going to require a deep dive into the Modern card file to see exactly what's out there.
Right, and Sam Black wrote an article earlier this week on Star City Games, laid out some early Urza shells that looked promising. And yeah, there's stuff like Surge Node that Sam knows exists and knows how to build around, and that stuff just doesn't cross my mind. My brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, he's got this incredible vault of things he can go to whenever a broken blue artifact-based card shows up.
He's like, I was waiting for this one.
Just ready to go. He's like, oh, I know exactly.
No, I wasn't on that team.
Okay.
I was just devil's advocating.
You said it. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. You said it on our podcast this week, and I had to stop you. I do like Horizon lands better for these, but ultimately,
I was just doing it to needle you.
Sure. Ultimately, call them what you want. I don't care. As long as we're identifying them. I'm talking about Fiery Islet and the like. I think it's Islet, isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay. Say whatever you want. Again, it's your world. Do what makes you happy. Call them Horizon lands, call them Canopy lands, call it Fiery Islet or Islet. But either way, you're paying 1 life for either red or blue mana, or you can pay 1, sacrifice Fiery, whatever it is, draw a card.
Islet sounds better. I don't know. It just looks weird.
Sure. What do you think these do to Modern, Jerry? These are unquestionably impactful. For so long, it's been Horizon Canopy filling the domain. And in fact, I think that was a large portion of White's strength in this format, the ability to get access to Horizon Canopy. And you can make the same argument for Green, of course, but I feel like these white-based creature decks were the ones that really leveraged it well.
Yeah, humans, obviously.
Spirits, humans.
Humans being the most notable one. You get to play a 19-land deck, super low curve, have things like Aether Vial, Noble Hierarch, and then part of your mana base gets to get cashed in for cards. It is a very, very powerful effect because flooding is one of the worst things that can happen to you in a game of Magic, where you just feel like you have no control over the game. So finding ways to actually make use of your mana and get extra resources out of it, extra cards, or even like the creature lands, Treetop Village, Raging Ravine. These are some of the most powerful cards in Magic, and they're kind of understated because it's just like, yeah, you got an extra 3/3, big deal. A lot of the games come down to them not mattering, but in the games where they do matter, you literally win or lose the game based on those cards.
I think
it's huge.
That's a great way of looking at it, and I do think historically people have undervalued how important this kind of effect is on any land. I mean, we see it with like Blast Zone being a very meaningful card. If you get something out of your land besides mana, it often can be game breaking.
Well, especially for these where they also function as dual lands.
Right, they're fixing your mana simultaneously.
And Izzet Phoenix played 18 land basically since its inception, but you see players arguing whether or not they should play the 3rd Steam Vents or a Sulphur Falls, an extra fetch land, an extra basic land. It's like, well, naturally drawing Steam Vents isn't great. It's not something that you would want to draw, otherwise you would just put 4 copies in your deck, right? This is a card like Fiery Islet.
Whatever you want. It's your world.
I'll follow your example.
Sure.
You generally can't go wrong with that. Fiery Islet. That is going to be in the deck. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a 4 of, but it's an easy card that you can slot in as a 2 of and get a little bit of extra value out of your mana base.
I will say there's an interesting tension present, especially in Izzet Phoenix, as opposed to something like, say, Humans, in that Izzet Phoenix wants to spend a lot of its mana on every turn. You want to tap your lands on every single turn. Whereas Humans, you play your Aether Vial, and a lot of times you have actual nothing to do with your mana. So those are very different situations, and the damage from a card like Fiery, whatever it is, can really add up. And matchups like, say, against Burn, I think it's going to be a huge cost to that deck. Not to say they don't want them. I think they're very impactful. Almost every deck that has access to them is going to at least consider them.
Yeah, so
but there is a cost.
For Phoenix specifically, I think you want a couple. Do you think Burn is going to play any of these? Or maybe Trim. I guess you get the white-red one, right? They already play Inspiring Vantage.
Yeah, it seems better.
I mean, in matchups like against Azorius Spirits, where kind of it comes down to a race, obviously taking damage is a cost. That does matter. No deck in Modern really gets to free roll that. But yeah, I do think that these are going to show up in a lot of different spots, and there are going to be reasons maybe why something like red-white Burn is stronger than red-black Burn because they have access to this Horizon land.
Let me ask you kind of a more broad question, a more theoretical question. You're a player, you're an Izzet Phoenix person, let's say, and you're trying to figure out how many copies of this card you need to play. Do you start with 4 and work down, or do you start with 1 and build up? Which is going to more quickly and efficiently get you to exactly the right configuration?
So I have a lot of previous experience and theory and like intuition to work off of. I honestly think that 2 copies in Phoenix with 18 land or even 2 copies with 19 land is probably where people are going to end up. But if you are in a situation where you literally have no idea and you just want to try them out, I think it's fine to start with 4 copies just so that you draw them while you're actually playtesting. You actually get a feel for it, how big of an impact it has. And it's like, well, if I draw 2, it is very difficult to win this matchup. Okay, there's basically no way that you want to have like 3 or 4 in your deck because it's too high of a likelihood that you actually draw too early.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you could also do the thing where it's like you draw an opening hand of 6 cards and also have the Islet in your hand.
Right.
And you just try that.
Just always have it every time and take it from there.
Right.
Yeah, I think assessing these cards is going to be a big part of understanding the impact of Modern Horizons. I can tell you authoritatively, Jerry.
If you must.
I must. I promise you I must. And I must talk about Ranger Captain of Eos. Why don't you read that one for the folks at home?
1/dub, 3/3 creature, human soldier, mythic rare. When this enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library, and you can sacrifice Ranger Captain of Eos to have your opponent not be able to cast non-creature spells this turn.
Dope. Number 1, human. Matters a ton in Modern.
It does.
Matters so much. It's going to slot right into that tribal deck very effectively. Number 2, let's talk 1-drops available in Modern. There's very good ones in the humans deck in terms of Noble Hierarch, also Champion of the Parish. I'm kind of into another one, though. I want to know what this card can do with Death Shadow, because you're getting really reliable access to your Death Shadows. Also, I think the Sacrifice ability does a great job of protecting Temur Battle Rage Death Shadow setups. Maybe start getting back to some Mardu Shell, see what you can do there.
Oh, I'm in for Mardu.
I had a feeling you would be.
I was thinking a different kind of Mardu, but that's okay too.
Okay. I think there's going to be a few kinds of Mardu. Mardu getting some good tools in this set.
Absolutely.
And we'll see if that means a return to Fair Magic. Maybe Ranger Captain of Eos leads the way. Maybe it's the Pyromancer leading the way. The seasoned Pyromancer now has done some time in the Pyromancer game, gotten some good experience. Now just goes off on its own, doesn't need other spells.
It's been a year. 2 years? 1 year?
Since
my finals in the PT with Mardu.
A little over a year now, I think.
About an oldie but a goodie. One I'm sure you've cast a time or two in your career, yeah? Because even I've cast this card.
Even I cast this card.
Yeah, because Fact or Fiction is busted. Now, I don't know how good it's going to be in Modern. I really want it to be good, but like we're not even seeing like Gifts Ungiven and a lot of 4-mana spells seeing a lot of play right now, but I think there's some good things going for Fact or Fiction's return.
So the upshot of Fact or Fiction compared to other cards that you can play in that slot, like Jace the Mind Sculptor or, pick your Planeswalker, is it's an instant. Plays really well, Cryptic Command, and we've seen people in the past even play with Glimmer of Genius in Azorius control decks with no energy synergies.
Hieroglyphic Illumination?
Yeah, that one's different because you have the bailout of 1 mana. But people have paid 4 mana before, not that long ago in Modern, for an effect that's a lot less powerful than this.
True.
The concern that I have with Fact or Fiction is, as time has gone on, Wizards keeps making these Planeswalkers that are so powerful. At a certain point, you say, I got to play on my main phase a little bit. These cards are too good, and this idea of sitting on my heels the whole game, which is Settle the Wreckages and Snapcaster Mages and Cryptic Commands, doesn't really work. I've got to be willing to tap out my own turn. Once you rip off that Band-Aid and you're able to tap out, you can do a lot better than Fact or Fiction for 4 mana, or even for 3 mana.
Sure.
So if you really want to desperately play that control flash game and never commit mana on your own main phase, people have played worse cards than this in Modern not that long ago. But if you want to lean into where the most power is, which right now, in my opinion, for control decks is the Planeswalkers, I think it's too dissonant with Fact or Fiction. You need to be playing that always pass on my turn sort of game to make this card work.
I'm hoping this one shows up. I really want it to show up really bad. Now, I do think that, for your Storm decks, with Goblin Electromancer and Brawl, Gifts Ungiven is just better because it just finds the exact pieces you want for the kill.
You're sensitive to selection. It's not like oh, I really need the 3rd card. I need these 2 specific ones.
And I don't know if this is better or worse than Pieces of the Puzzle. I would have to ask Caleb or Paul or someone like that, because Pieces of the Puzzle is 3 mana, this is 4. This might find you better stuff, though. Not really sure.
But also, Instance is not, when you're trying to overwhelm all in one turn, Pieces of Sorcery, the spots where you cast it, usually your opponent gets to make a pretty simple decision about whether or not to counter it. Fact or Fiction as an instant is threatening in the way that Gifts Ungiven is. If I let this resolve, maybe the stuff that happens is really bad for me and I lose anyway. And if I counter it, well, now the shields are down and they get an opportunity to do their thing.
But the best part, the pile splits.
Oh, yeah. It's an art. It's an art.
It's great.
It's an art.
It pile splits. Sometimes your opponent does it really bad. Sometimes they do it really well. And it's the most fun part of the card. It's one of my favorite Magic cards of all time. Like I said, even we've cast it. And we like attack.
I'm not into this, and
No.
I've been into this.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards of all time. I'm super happy it's back. Welcome back, Fact or Fiction.